Do you struggle with the top tier grind with today's sponsor, 3GE for War Thunder? You might be able to make it a little bit easier. All you need to do is click the link in the description, download the app, complete some simple task and you'll get some small amounts of golden eagles. Now if you sign up with my promo code EPGEK, not only will you get 10 GE upon signing in, but every GE that you guys earn, I will get as well, that I will be able to give away again in huge batches a few times every year. Welcome back, and today we are going to be playing out the ME262 C2B. Now this thing used to be one of my all-time favorites, but it has been changed a little bit and now it's not all that fantastic. And the main two changes that really hit this plane quite hard are first of all the ballistic changes. The MK108 just lose so much speed now that beyond 700 meters from behind you actually can't hit people anymore because the rounds will be going so slow that they actually just outrun them. We used to call these things tennis ball cannons or tennis ball launchers even, and they're even slower now. Second of all, it's the matchmaker. When you get down tiered, of course you are still gonna rinse half the lobby, but now at 8.0 you also have MiG-15s, you have F-86 A5s, you have a lot of planes now that really rival your performance despite just being outright better than you. You don't have the highest top speed. With the rocket boosters you will go about 10-50 kilometers an hour on the deck, but it takes forever to reach and you don't have the fuel for this. You have about 245 in terms of rocket fuel. It's not a lot and you need it to be competitive. And you also have a lot of planes now in the bracket which actually kind of just hang with you in terms of energy. Think of the LIM 5P, think of stuff like the Swift F7 and a lot of missile planes that just kind of make your life living hell. When you are stalling people out and there is someone that's actually like there with a missile, you're going to die. You don't turn that well, and in the background you can see, well, first of all the 262 crashing in the cocky pillar, and second of all this F-84G is simply dodging my guns. Now we kind of just shoot on the right and he dodges into them, but if people don't fly into your rounds beyond like 300 meters from behind, if they're looking at you, there's a very big likelihood you are never going to be hitting them. But yeah, this plane kind of became a mixed bag. I also don't think we can really down tier this thing, because at like 7.7 this thing is gonna be an absolute menace. But there is a lot of planes that you just kind of can't hang with anymore, even with the rocket fuel, and after your rockets run out you are actually worse performance wise than the ME262 A1. It's still better than the A1U1, but that's not exactly a high bar. We have a MiG-15 here and he is actually gonna try to spiral us. Now something like a MiG-15 is actually something we can hang with as long as we have rocket fuel, and because we had quite a bit of it coming into this, I'm just gonna stick the fight here. And yes, it looks like I'm not really gaining on him and that he's running me out of energy, but the only thing the MiG-15 is doing right now is outturning me. The MiG-15 is a lot more maneuverable, but if I keep this pressure up, eventually he will just kind of drift in front of me. Now the thing that he needs to do here is try to dive out and get away. The issue is, because I have this kind of position, I basically have him by the balls, and if he tries to disengage, I'm going to get very close on his 6. And you can tell that eventually he runs out of energy, and the second he actually runs out of energy, I pull into him quite easily. You need to be aware that you're fighting a C2B. And it doesn't matter if you use a language pack, if you recognize the camo, recognize the battle ratings, you just need to know that you're fighting a C2B and not an A1, because if you fight them in the same manner, you're going to eat shit and die, just like this F2H is about to do. We go ahead on with him, we send him to Narnia, and then we merge with the F80. And something like an F80 really has no chance, but keep in mind that even with an F80, if you keep your speed up and just kind of let the 262 burn all of its rocket fuel, there is very little the C2B can really do. You can keep your speed, dodge his guns. Yes, it's going to be sus, but at the end of the game there's a very big likelihood that the C2B doesn't have that much fuel left. And if it doesn't have the fuel left, it becomes an absolute sitting duck. F80 here, much more maneuverable, but we just have all the energy in the world. So I just kind of pull up over him and he goes for the shot, basically drains his own balls. And now we have such a wide turning circle that despite the energy deficit, I'm still not able to pull in. Sometimes you'll see me run the boosters in this kind of manner because I'm trying to keep my turn rate up a little bit. And it works out perfectly here. Flies out directly in front of us, disassemble his plane, and we go into the next match. And when I say next match, I of course mean the next clip, because today I'm mainly taking a look at the smaller fights. The C2B is not made to win the war, it's made to win the battle. if even that. So today I mainly want to take a look at the smaller fights, the things that you can actually, well, use if you fly this yourself, because the longer games are mainly down to just how it plays out and a little bit of a luck factor. You can carry, of course, if the situation arises, because in its own niche it is actually pretty strong, but those situations just don't really come up all too often. And here you see it again. I just basically corkscrew, I turn into one direction. You don't want to turn back around very often, because that's just gonna put you into their guns. Barely get the shot there, because the nose authority of this thing is absolutely god awful. F9F shows up as well. It's an F9F 8, so you won't have the energy to do basically anything, but he does have missiles, and I do want to be careful of them if I open up the gap and try to stall myself out directly above him. G91 crashes and we kind of just loop on over. I don't really need the boosters here to pull in, because the F9F is simply not fast enough. But he's trying to run away, and at this point, if he tries to dive out, I might engage the boosters a little bit to close up the gap. But he turns back in, and it's an F9F 8, so he's going to lose all of his speed. I don't go for the shot immediately. I try to pull in behind him, but it seems like he lacks object permanence and just forgets that I'm there. But he does get the missile over the CL-13, so he probably won in the end in his eyes anyway. Now here's an actual full game. One of two. It's very hard to get full matches in this thing that are interesting to show you. Most of the time it's like 2 or 3 kills, maybe 4 kills, and half of them are third parties, people that aren't really paying attention, stuff like that, and there's really nothing to talk about, unfortunately, with how the matchmaker is at the moment and how the game is at the moment. This thing has a lot of potential, and most of the games it just doesn't really come to fruition, because everyone just kind of wants to go head on, wants to kill themselves, and overall it's very hard to have a fun experience in this thing where I can show you something and you'll be like, yeah, I can probably do the same thing, and then it works out. That's how it used to be. Now if you try to do what I'm doing exactly one-to-one, there's a very big likelihood for the full games that you are gonna die. And the same goes for me. It's just a very dynamic plane. You kind of just have to go with the flow of the battle, and if you try to force your own pace, you're probably going to get either third-partied, you run out of fuel, or you are just going to get... I actually ran out of examples, but you get the idea. It's just not pretty. Now here, you saw that I was kind of bouncing between the two furballs, looking at who I can engage. A5 here goes vertical. I decide to help out my teammate that's on kind of co-altitude, so I don't waste as much energy trying to engage them. Vampire gets clapped right after, and now we are freed up on the medium to high altitude here, and we can start helping my team down below. Now I do want to pick the right targets, because if I pick the wrong one I need to loop on over, waste a lot of energy. So here I'm just kind of taking a look at where I can fly in a straight line and pick off as many people as possible. G91 here takes priority. He has missiles and he still had 4 of them. If I had different guns I probably would have been able to kill both, but my aim is dog shit with these, and I'm not able to take both on at the same time, unlike your model would. So we take a pass, kill the G91, keep on flying straight. There's an A5 right here. I don't have the ability to pull in there. I don't have the roll rate for it, nor the turn rate, but it looks like he's not really doing it the right way. He pulls back in, and we're gonna try to stall him out. So we kind of disengage, we open up the gap a little bit to make sure that he doesn't have the energy or the reach to really spray me with 50 cals. And after we open up the gap a little bit, we can go vertical quite reliably. And you can tell here that he is never going to be catching this. I'm keeping my eyes on that F9F, because it might be an F8. I'm not entirely sure right now, and I don't want to find out the second I see that missile diamond come off his wing. So we pull up over. A5 is going super slow here, but I still have to hit the shot, because this plane is just a bit of a boat, and the guns are, well, the tennis ball cannons. We disassemble his plane. Perfect example, and then the F9F comes in, so the timing there was absolutely impeccable. We go up and over. Razor comes in his 162 even, and I'm just trying to pull up over his nose. If the F9F goes for me, Razor gets the freest kill imaginable. If he goes for Razor, then well, I do. But Razor is of course not going to miss that kind of shot, and he is going to send him back to the hangar. And that's going to be the first part of the match. And then we engage the F86 F2. We go head on, we go up over his nose. He's not going super fast, so I can actually put on the pressure here. Normally with an F86 F2, you don't want to, merge directly upwards. If he's going like 1100, he will pull in and he will spray you down, and I don't really recommend it. So we kind of loop on over, draw a bit of a line, he flies straight, we get a kill, and we make sure that we don't fly into the 911 tower and go back into altitude. Now here, I have very little fuel left, I have very little rocket fuel left, but again, I didn't really pay attention to exactly just how much I had. Saab 105 comes in, and we are of course gonna start engaging him. There's a second one as well, and I feel like if I'm quick enough, I could probably kill one and then maybe kill the second as well. But at this point, I am very much overestimating just how much rocket fuel I have left. So I merge with the first one, I kind of just go underneath him, pick up a bit of speed. J29 also shows up, and now we are in a bit of a pickle. We go up and over, Saab actually sticks it, the other one goes to bomb. So we go into a bit of a spiral here. Keep eye on that J29, because I'm not sure which variant it is, and I need a bit of separation. So again, I open up the gap, get a bit of energy, make sure that the J29 can't just outright kill me. So I pick up a little bit of speed and turn off the rocket boosters. J29 seems to not really be interested. So what do? We go up over the Saab 105's nose. And when I said I turned off the boosters, I meant I ran out of fuel. So yeah, now I am worse than the 262A1. I'm gonna run out of energy very quickly, so I need to wrap this up as quick as I can. I am a little bit lighter now because I don't have rocket fuel left, but I need to be super aggressive, because if I play this passively, eventually the Saab will absolutely rinse me. So I'm trying to get behind him here. He turns directly in front of me, which basically gives me the kill, but I'm not able to get my nose on. Underlead all of those rounds. Turn back in. He does it again. I miss it again because he rolls out of the way last second. This guy really wants to die to me, and after turning in front of me 3 times, eventually I put him out of his misery. We glide back to the airfield, and as we touch down, we get strafed by the J29. Of course, we don't die, because we never do, but that's what happened in the end. And here's another full game. It's a little bit more straightforward. I think there is just me kind of bouncing between enemies and taking the right calls, but at the end of the day, it still feels like I'm kind of flying around with my dick in my hand, as I'm not really able to get much done. Sea Vixen is being chased by 2 or 3 guys. First one gets missiled. And then I switch targets again, because I'm not able to pitch into the MiG-15. Now this guy tries to come head on with me, I barely hit the shot. And then I look for the MiG-15 that is still somewhat dogfighting with us. Now luckily he has been pressured by the Javelin, I think it is, next to us. So we are just able to kind of stick with him. But again, it's a MiG-15 or it's a J2. And all he really needs to do is just kind of keep its speed up and make sure that I can never get close to him. There comes the Javelin missile. He kind of turns out of the way. Because of that, he turns directly into my guns. And you can tell that I just have a very hard time getting guns on this guy. And you don't have an air brake. You don't have means to slow down quickly. You don't pull a lot of AOA. So all in all, it is very frustrating to get on the 6 of someone and them just kind of flying around like this, because it just costs you so much time and fuel to actually kill them. And then when he finally gets near your guns, you miss, because the MK108s are just the slowest pieces of shit you have ever used. And yes, the Key 44 has even slower guns, I am very much aware, but you're also not shooting at guys that are going Mach 12. So here, I'm trying to stick on the 6, and the issue is that if I go too slow, he will simply outrun me, and I will never kill him. And if I try to go too fast, I will overshoot, because the MiG-15 absolutely mocks the ever-living hell out of the C2B. Now this guy, he does the thing that I always warn you about not to do, and I'm on a 6, I'm close enough, and he doesn't really try to reverse me. All he tries to do is dodge my guns and kind of sit in front of me. And if you do that often enough, eventually the enemy on your 6 will hit you, no matter how bad their aim is. So try to do something that actually gains you position. If you get stuck in the set position, you're probably gonna die sooner or later. Now here we are kind of wrapped up with multiple people at once. I got a bit greedy on that J2 because I just wanted him to be out of the match. I was on his 6, I had an opportunity, and now I kind of put myself in a pretty bad position. Now here, I'm kind of doing the same thing as I said not to do, where I'm staying in front of someone, but I'm dodging missiles, I'm dodging the MiG-17, and because I have rocket boosters, eventually I will actually get away from this guy. I have more energy, here I try to get in front of the MiG-17 so that the missile hits him, and I didn't even need to do it because the missile was already on the way. Now here, I can't straighten out because the G91 will missile me, so I need to turn in prematurely and work my way into him. Close up the gap, make it a tight loop for him. If he wants to pitch up here, he will run out of energy. Make sure that I pitch in myself quick enough so that he can't just straight up missile me. And this is a little bit sus, but the G91 just doesn't have the energy for this. So I just pull up over yet again. I want him to pitch in here to take the shot, stall himself out. He doesn't do it, but it doesn't really matter because he doesn't have the energy to do anything here anyway. He needs to run away but he doesn't, and thus we get a very free kill. We take off his wingtip, he goes into a flat spin, and he instantly bails out. We break off for a little bit here. I'm thinking about going RTB. I don't have ammo, I don't have fuel, I don't have bitches, I don't have anything other than else, so we just go land, rearm, and then after a little bit of running around, the MiG-17 goes head on, we absolutely implode this plane, and that's really it. We have a MiG-17 above us. He's not really thinking about engaging us, but we have Mackerel in the Mark 8 as well. So I just want to keep this guy slow. But it doesn't really matter because we are about to win on tickets. Because of course auto bleed is a thing. And it's still absolutely terrible. And that's essentially the game. Now here's another fight. It's an A5 Sabre. And the way that this plays out is very standard. This is the average engagement. And it's extremely frustrating. I don't think I can put it any other way, even when you win. So we go head on. I mean, those rounds are probably never going to hit him. He goes full commit. He almost takes my engines out, because that's all people hit with this thing. And we go into a bit of a spiral. Now here he's actually sticking. And at this point I think, okay, we're about to get a clip. So I go horizontal, bank my speed a little bit. Make sure that I have the energy to deal with this guy if he tries to run away. He goes horizontal too. And that's the worst thing he can do, which means that I will catch him. So we go up over. I don't go for the shot, I go for position and I slot in behind him. And then he can simply just dive away. And that's the issue. I can't keep up with this roll. I'm forced to break off a little bit, because otherwise I get reversed. We pull back in, a little separation, and if he does the smart thing right here, he will dive out, he will outrun me, and I will never see him again. Now luckily he does the absolute unthinkable and goes vertical to dodge the guy that came from behind or below. And he kind of just pulls into my guns, because this guy also lacks object permanence and ends up pulling directly into my guns. And that's just a lot of your kills. People that aren't really paying attention and stuff that isn't really that interesting to show you. We pull up for an SK60 here, a lot more maneuverable. We are not able to pull in for the shot, because I don't have the nose authority to do anything. The SK60 is also a bit of a slippery bitch. So this is going to be a little bit annoying to kill, but we have a lot more energy than him, and we should be able to just pull in right here. Shoot a 30mm directly into the cockpit, and this isn't red tail, so he doesn't end up surviving that one, and we dive out to engage the furball over there. Now of course this is Mysterious Valleys. That is very mysterious because it's always littered with clouds, which doesn't help your case in a plane like this. You need to have overview. You need to see everyone, you need to see what they are doing, gauge their energies, gauge the position they're heading in. It's very important to know exactly what your enemy is doing, and on a map like this, that is not really a workable way of playing it. So you are going to play it a lot more in a reactive manner, which is the main downside of this thing. Now, the one thing that I forgot to mention, you see me rip my flaps off in some clips. You can't do that anymore. So what they did is they made them auto-retract if you go too quickly, and they auto-deploy again if you go slow enough. And they are not very intrusive like with the F8Fs. They are actually very intuitive and actually a pretty decent change. So we dive in here, Uragan, just spray the ever-living shit out of him. Disassemble his plane, go back up. We have a Meteor as well as the, I can't see it on the screen right now, an A28. And the A28 is pitching up after us. He's getting shot at by our teammate, the F80. And we just kind of loop back in. Now, we don't see what's in the clouds behind us. He gets set on fire. And here I go for the A28 because he's a lot more annoying to kill. So we disassemble his plane. We disengage. It's a Mark 4. It's a long wing. And we are pulled into his guns a little bit because I want him to go for the shot to stall himself out. It's a little bit risky, but I need to make a play here. If I go prolonged, I will probably run out of fuel, and a Meteor Mark 4 with a long wing is definitely kind of spooky if you run out of rocket fuel. Now we have the energy here to just kind of go up and over. We dive back down. He's gonna try to go head on, but at this speed and this angle, I can just hold the trigger down and wait for him to pitch into it, which he does. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you all for watching, and you'll see me on Monday.